cup at a time. Tea time. Yeah, this is tea time. Yeah, making a difference. One cup at a time. Tea time. So be sure to grab your tea, grab a seat, and tune in to Miss Liz. Tea time. Making a difference. One cup at a time. Tea time, yeah. Tea time.
Well, welcome back to Tea Time. That's right. It is evening tea time. And tonight I have a returning guest. That's right. Roger Leslie's in the house. And we're going to talk a good cup of tea. We're going to do today's everything and asperistis. So I'm going to get him to say the last A word because I can't say it. I'm going to spell it. It's AUSPT. ICIUS. I think I have it spelled right. Maybe I might have it spelled wrong. But we're going to get Roger to talk about his tea tonight with all of you guys out there. Again, if you haven't subscribed to Miss Liz's YouTube channel, please jump on over there, subscribe, ring that little doorbell, and you can watch these tea times at any time. In your home, in your car, at a picnic, all of that good stuff. You can watch these tea times. And you can watch them over and over again and share them away. If they resonate with somebody, share them. So let's get the disclaimer out there. Let's get a little bit of Roger's bio out there. And then we're going to get Roger in here. And me and Roger were sitting in the back and we were just reminiscing how things have changed since we last spoke. So we're going to have a lot of good, juicy, good tea tonight to talk to all of you guys. So disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz myself is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment, please grant StreamYard permission to see your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that the content brought forward for any Tea Time show hosted by myself, Miss Liz, is always brought forward in good faith. However, may bring forth dialogues and opinions that are not representative of my platform. The facts and information are perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All Tea Time guests and audience participants are responsible for using their good judgment in taking any action that may relate to the discussion. The content brought forward may include discussions for some where they may be emotionally at risk. It is significant to know that this show is engaging in discussion forums only to offer and inspire awareness and connection and is not providing therapeutical advice. If you have any questions about the disclaimer or the panelist discussion, you may freely contact me, Miss Liz, through my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com. Moving forward, should you choose to voluntarily participate in tonight's show in any aspect, I myself, Miss Liz, welcomes you. And should you decide that the show is not made for you at this time, I respect those wishes and will see you at a later show at a later date and time. And again, all Tea Time shows are done on Thursday, 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If it's done on a Monday or Tuesday, it's a surprise tea time or a rescheduled tea time. So now a little bit on my guest. Well, he's returning, so he must have enjoyed himself the last time. So he's back for a second round, and he's done a lot since the last time we've been together. So let me give you a little bit on Dr. Roger Leslie is a scholar in the fields of success and education through major literacy houses, mediums, and small presses, and his own publishing house. Leslie has published fiction and nonfiction books in multiple genres: historical fiction, inspirational, self-help, spirituality, writing and publishing, movie reference, teaching, and librarianship, biography. There goes my tongue. History and memoirs. Leslie has won numerous national awards, including 4 Word Books of the Year, the Ben Franklin Award, and Writer's Digest #1 Inspirational Book of the Year. At an inaugural event, Leslie received the Houston Literacy Award for his body of work. Leslie is a demand as a teacher, coach, and keynote speaker. He has led last year courses based on his blockbuster memoirs, My First Last Year. He draws from decades as an author, editor, and publisher to coach, writes in groups and individually. He is also a sought-after speaker for his lively, entertaining keynotes relating award-winning movies to any topic or group. In every book and presentation, Leslie entertains, inspires, and empowers people to live the life they dreamed and soar towards their own ideal of success. For more, you can check out Dr. Leslie, Roger Leslie's website at rogerleslies.com. And let me get Roger in here and let me spill some tea with you. Roger, my goodness, my tongue sometimes it just twists and I'm just like, what? I can't say some of these words. I've read these a million times. Like, what's going on here?
You did great, Liz. Good to see you again.
So before we get started, Roger, what is your A word? Did I spell it right?
No, I don't think so. Try it
Okay,
again.
I have Auspicious, Auspicious.
Oh, maybe auspicious?
There we go.
There you
I
go.
could not say that even if you paid me time. Sometimes my tongue is just like, ah. So, Roger, since you've last been on Tea Time, what has gone on?
So, Liz, I'm always in the course of writing many, many books. I'm writing multiple books at different stages. And since I was last year when I was on here, I was promoting my memoir, Light Come Out of the Closet, which has been doing very well, very pleased. The response has been beautiful. I'm very grateful for that. Well, since that time, I've actually had 4 more books come out with just all this year so far.
So every 3 months there's a new book popping out, right?
Well, it's not to say that I've written all these books in the last year, but there's so many things that I've got backlogged and I'm just pacing them to bring them out. And the 3 books that came out before the one we talk about mostly tonight they're called Books of Days, and they're calendar books where they're interactive calendar books where, I teach my fly classes, fly FLY first last year. And for those listeners who weren't here last year and don't know anything about it, I'll give you a little bit of background. Several years ago, I had a dream, and I was told in that dream to live the next 365 days as if I would never experience those calendar dates again. Now, I wasn't necessarily told that I would definitely die within a year, but I was told to pack everything that I wanted to pack into my life in that 1 year. Everything I wanted to do for myself, for my loved ones, and for the legacy I would leave. Further, in the dream, I was instructed to write about the experience as I lived it. And then after I completed that year, to publish that writing as a book to inspire other people. And then finally in the dream, I was told to teach other people how to live their first last year. And so while I was writing the book, usually I do my writing at a computer, but because I was writing about experiences as they were happening, I was very present every moment. I always had a notebook with me, taking notes on everything I was doing. And I remember when I was writing longhand, just any ideas from first last year, every time I wrote first last year, it just started to feel kind of cumbersome. And so I abbreviated first last year to FLY. And it became the acronym FLY for my workshops. So I teach people how to fly in the workshops. So the books that have come out, the Books of Days that have come out, there are 3 different themes. One's on motivation, one's on faith, the other's on love. And so the calendar books on the left side are calendars that participants fill in to record special events in their lives. And on the opposite facing page, there are quotations to inspire people through either the theme is either motivation, they're all motivational quotations, or they're quotations related to faith or quotations related to love. And so people are sharing those books. For example, the love book, many people give to brides and grooms when they're first getting married or people who are getting engaged. And the faith book, there are many faith communities and many faith approaches. And this kind of resource helps with my mission to help people explore their personal journey of faith. It's not about necessarily finding a religion or joining a group. If it is for you, that's wonderful. But my recommendation is find what's true in your heart, find what's true for you, and follow that. That, I believe, is where the greatest fulfillment comes.
Now I get where you said this. Where can I help you? I got you. We're gonna fly. So, Roger, you said you had a dream. So every night you were dreaming, and then you were writing it down when you woke up. How did that work
No,
out?
all these instructions came in one dream.
Oh,
And
one dream.
I had this dream on a November night. And I'm a former librarian, so that kind of tells you how my brain works. I'm very
Oh,
organized, very structured, love everything in perfect order, which of course is never how you write the first draft of a book, but that's another story. So when I woke up from the dream, the librarian side of my brain thought, well, I'm so close to the beginning of a new year. I could wait. It's just about a month and a half. Why don't I wait till after the holidays and start it January 1st? But the wiser spiritual side of my brain thought, no, I got the dream. So as soon as I woke up from the dream, I rushed to the computer and recorded every detail just as I had dreamt it while it was still fresh. And then I began living my first last year that very day.
I think it's really eye-opening as well, right? Your first last day. Like,
Right.
you don't know when your first and your last, well, you know your first day because of the day you're born, but I mean,
Yeah.
you don't know the last day. You never know when that last day is coming. So we should all live our lives as the first last day of our lives.
Exactly. And I'm really cautious and aware of self-fulfilling prophecy. And so I didn't want to call it my last year because I didn't want to put out, to into the world, oh my gosh, I want this to be my last year.
Yeah.
I hope a year from now I get, something happens. And so I decided to call it my first last year because I don't know when my actual last year is ever going to be. I mean, this could be it. We don't know. But so when I lived that experience, I thought, okay, I'm going to affirm that this is the first time I'm living the last year of my life, and I'm packing everything in there. And I have to tell you, Liz, it changed everything for me. It helped me be so present in every moment and to be with the people and look at them and listen to them and connect with them, especially those people I love the most. And it helped me realize that there is no waiting. We can always come up with a reason why we don't pursue our dreams or pursue our goals. I don't have enough money. I'm not old enough. I'm too old. I'm not smart enough. I don't have the background. I didn't have the childhood other people had. You know, you just, when you have an experience like a first last year, you have to throw all that out. It's just like, that is useless. It's not helping me at all. And so it was a year of taking risks. It was a year of being bold. It was a year of spiritually exploring. And interestingly, in the last quarter of that year, I actually had a health scare that made me think perhaps it would be the end. And I
Oh,
learned more from that health scare that I had near the end of that year than all the other lessons that came before it. But I think I needed those 9 years of being present, being aware, achieving my goals, living my dreams to face that health scare when it happened. It gave me the wisdom and the courage to move through that. And it connected me with people who helped me and supported me and reminded me everything's everything's in perfect order. The universe knows what it's doing. It's all going to happen exactly as it should. I just need to go with the flow and contribute positively to it rather than being afraid.
well, we talked about this before we went live. That's why we were a few seconds late, right? Because we really got into a good conversation. Is sometimes things happen and you're like, oh no, what am I going to do now? But you got to look at the other way, right? You got to go that other angle and you got to say, maybe there's something I'm not seeing and this has to close. This scare has to come, right? This health scare had to come in order for you to see a different
Yes.
direction in life, right?
Yes. Yes. And in the fly classes that I teach, I use an analogy of a prism, PRISM, like a crystal prism. And
Yeah.
my belief is that we are all looking at the center of the prism, no matter who we are, but each of us is looking from a different facet of the prism. And so sometimes if I don't see eye to eye with somebody else, it's not that they're so different from me because we're all having the same kind of spiritual journey. They're just looking at the same thing from a different facet of the prism. So if I want to understand my life better, I can look through at life through a different facet of the prism. If I want to understand somebody else better, I try to see life through their facet of the prism. You know, a lot of people talk about the divisiveness in the world and in our
Yeah.
country and everything. I'm an advocate for unity. I'm an advocate for figuring each other out and supporting each other and finding common ground
Yeah.
rather than trying to argue one way is better than the other or thinking somebody has to win and somebody else has to lose. We're here to support each other. I believe the reason we exist together in this space is because we can help each other in ways, because Liz, you have strengths that I don't have. I have strengths from my life experiences that you have yet to reach. We're
Yeah.
here to be able to help each other and guide each other and support each other. And I think that starts with an effort toward understanding. And that's why that prism analogy, at least for me, is very effective.
Yeah. Well, something I taught my kids when they were young is it's okay to lose, right? Like when you're running that track and field, I use track and field with my children a lot. And I say, if you win all the races, how does anybody else get ahead? How do you celebrate anybody else? You're just celebrating me, 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 me. Everybody else is in the back. Sometimes you got to lose the race to celebrate the race, because it's that pattern, right? You just keep doing the same thing over and over, but you're going to get tired of winning eventually. You're going to say, like, well, I already got it in the bag. I don't even have to run the race anymore. And that's how my son would get. And I would be like, no, 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 no. You still got to run the race, because there might be somebody that might just have that extra 2 seconds ahead of you today. You got to try. You got to go, but we in life, I find in society right now, everybody's saying, "Oh, I want peace. I want unity. I want," but they're fighting against it instead of connecting. Instead of saying, "You know what? I'm going to let that one win today. Tomorrow I'll win. The next day she'll win. He'll win." Let's start celebrating everybody. And that's what I love about Tea Time is I like celebrating everybody, because everyone has a different story. Everybody has a different race. Everybody's running. And my grandma said that all the time, Roger, is run your own race. I
Yes.
love all my grandkids and all of my kids, but run your own race. Don't try
Yes.
and figure out what other people are doing. Just run your race
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
and enjoy it.
Yes. You know, I used to be a classroom teacher, and one thought that came to mind as you were speaking is, you know, there isn't just one student in the classroom who gets to get the A. Everybody can get the A if they want. So just because one person succeeds and is the winner doesn't mean everybody else in the class has lost. Anybody and everybody can be an A student for themselves,
Yep.
based upon what they're looking for or what they want to do. So it isn't like, okay, there's just one winner and then everybody else is a failure. It's like,
Yeah.
no, everybody in the class can have an A if that's what you want, if that's important to you, if this is meaningful for you. We could have all winners, all succeeding people in their own unique way. And so it's not win-loss, it's
Yeah.
win, 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 win all the way across the board.
Right? Just because you didn't win doesn't mean there's not still a win.
Yes, because there's a lesson. If I didn't win and
There's
I
a win of
wanted
every.
to,
It's almost back to, right? It goes right back to the prism that you talk about. We're all looking at it at different angles. So we're all coming in with our A's at different angles at different times. You might not win today, but you'll win tomorrow. You might win
yes,
next year. You know what I mean? That prism is bringing us all together. And I really like that you brought that up, Roger, because I think it opens the eyes of what's really out there. What we're not seeing, what's right in front of us. Like we talked this afternoon with Duncan, it's right in front of us, but we don't see it because we're so focused on this, that
yeah,
we're not focused on what's right in front of us.
yes.
Yeah. So I want to hear about these other books. So I got to check out these calendar books. I got to do some flying.
Okay, sounds great.
No pun intended, but I think me and you, Roger, we need to connect so I can do some flying.
There you go.
But tell me a little bit. Tell me a little bit more about these other books that you had released this year.
So there were three of the books of days. Those are three of them: one on faith, one on love, and one on motivation. Those were three separate books, and they're all tied into the ideas that I share through the fly concept. The idea of getting the most out of life and recording what's most to you. And then since those books came out, this week, we've launched my newest book, which is No Stranger Christmas, which is a YA novel about Christmas and about love and about self-awareness and about art and about just discovering who we are and finding the magic inside us that we sometimes find during the holiday season.
Oh, now I'm intrigued. Now I want to know about this No Stranger. Where does the stranger part come in?
So the working title for this book that I wrote, it took about 2 years to write this book. And the working title I had was just Christmas Eve, just because that's my favorite holiday. I love Christmas Eve. You know, that's the night that everything starts. But tomorrow there's something even bigger happening. That's Christmas Day. So I always loved Christmas Eve. But I knew, you know, that for a title of a book that just didn't say enough. And so the main character in this book is named Frankie Lincoln. And a few times in the book, someone calls him strange.
Oh.
And so I got the idea that I should put the word strange somehow in that title. And then I noticed that throughout the course of the book, Frankie connects with people that normally he would never connect with. That is, he meets, like, there's a guest who comes into his school who's helping them create this big nativity production. It's an artist that was not a teacher at the school. They just brought her in for this big event. And they don't match at all, but they become cohorts in working on this production. And it just occurred to me, and I love double meanings, words with double meanings. So the idea of No Stranger Christmas is if there's no stranger Christmas than this one. There's never been an odder or more unusual Christmas than the Lincolns have that year, because the family's financially struggling. So everything they used to take for granted that they would do and have at Christmas wasn't happening this year because something happens financially to the family. So for that matter, the Christmas was stranger to them than it was before. But then I saw the importance of connection and how there are really no strangers in our lives. We end up connecting with people that we may not know yet, but they're really not strangers. And when the title came to me, No Stranger Christmas, I loved the double meaning of it, because it can be taken either way, as there's nothing stranger than this Christmas, and there will be no strangers. We will meet no strangers on this Christmas because we're all connected.
I love when words are double meanings. It just makes it deeper, right? It makes it more enjoyable, because if they don't understand the first one, they're going to understand the second one, because they connect the dots. And then once the dots are connected, then they understand, right?
Exactly.
It's like dot to dot. I love doing those when I was a kid, and I still love doing them. Sometimes I'll take the dot and I'll go in the wrong way, and my daughter will say, "Mom, that's not the right dot." No, I'm feeling to go to this dot for a reason.
Good for
and then
you.
I have some other weird picture, and they're like, "Mom, that's not what it's supposed to be." Well, that's what the universe is telling me it's supposed to be. So, have you ever done dot to dots, Roger?
Oh, I loved dot to dots when I was a kid. I did them all the time. Yes. The more complicated, the more interesting.
Right? We need to bring dot to dot back. Like it was fun.
Yeah.
Right? What can you create? Let's put a bunch of dots on the page. It's fun how strangers do connect, and they do become, connect. And once we connect that dot, we actually open doors of relationships and understanding and growth and community and unity and all of that. So see, we need the dots. We need to bring those dots back.
Yeah. And the nice thing about it is that the other person doesn't necessarily have the answer for us, but they are mirroring an answer for us. We can see in them something we need to see in ourselves that we hadn't noticed before. We have that resource, and it's within us. So it's not going to come from somebody else. It's going to reflect or mirror off of someone else till we see ourselves and our own strengths and our own possibilities.
I like that. I love the mirror. I do it all the time. I look in the mirror some days and I'm just like, what are you up to now, Missy? Like, where are we going today with this? Like, you get in those moods where you just feel like life is hard, right? And you look in the mirror and you're just like, what am I doing here? What am I doing right now? You know, I talk to the mirror a lot, guys. So all my listeners out there, yes, Miss Liz is like this real. I, but if you don't talk to yourself, you don't understand yourself. I
Yeah.
find.
And I think what's most helpful is being aware of what questions I'm asking myself, because sometimes the
Exactly.
right question can give me the right answer. Like, instead of saying, what am I doing wrong? Why isn't this working? I can think, what could I try different that will work? And that changes the whole timbre of my whole consciousness. You know, if I
Yep.
go from this, what's wrong? I don't understand. Why is this not working? I feel frustrated. I feel disempowered, and I'm not thinking clearly. But if I ask myself a more proactive question, like, what can I do to get a different outcome? Or what can I see that I'm not seeing now that might make me feel differently about this circumstance? I feel empowered, and I feel calm enough to be able to look a different way at the same situation and find something that, as you said a moment ago, has been there all the time. I just didn't see it.
Right? Because we're looking right through the mirror sometimes.
Yes.
And we're not seeing the reflection. The reflection is looking right at us, and we're like, no, not doing you today. We're just going to put you away. But it goes right back to what you said about the book. The first last year, right? It's what we put into the universe, the words that we speak to ourselves, the journeys that we take together, right? With others. It's how we look and speak and walk and talk and serve. You know, it all comes together. It's all like a like that dot to dot that makes a circle, right? Makes it all come as one. But at the beginning, you said the first last year, you didn't want to put out that it was your last year. Because if you would have put that on the universe would have said, okay, well, if that's the way you're thinking, well, there we're gonna do right by that, you know. So when you're looking in the mirror and you're saying to yourself, well, what am I going to do today, like, you know, I'm a Debbie Downer for about 2 minutes, Roger, and then I'm just like, okay, that's enough of that. There, where are we going with this?
Good for you.
Because if I have this all day long, I'm not getting anything done. I'm not going anywhere, and nothing is getting accomplished. So let's just move through it,
Yes.
right? So, so I want to go back to the book, No Stranger's Christmas. So, what is it about Christmas that you really love, Roger?
So for me, there's something that I relive some childhood wonder at that Christmas time. There are elements of it that remind me of the happiest moments of my childhood, and they that weren't necessarily that happened at Christmas in my childhood, but just elements where I felt loved, or I felt heard, or I felt seen. I somehow something about the holiday spirit, the music and the multicolored Christmas lights and the traditional ornaments that that I put on the tree every year, and especially the foods, the foods that we eat at Christmas time, they help to contribute to bringing back that sense of innocence and joy that I loved feeling as a child. And what's very helpful for me too is, all of my grandparents have passed away. My mom died several years ago. So every time someone from the family dies, I inherit a few more Christmas ornaments from their trees. And so I remember each of my grandmother's Christmas trees when I was growing up. I remember our family tree growing up. And now I have a few of those ornaments on my own tree. And, I just open the box and my grandmothers are there with me. I just feel their presence there with me. They're not in the ornaments, but the ornaments trigger the memory and bring back that sense of connection to my grandmothers, who I truly believe are still with me. I don't for a minute believe that, even if if their bodies have physically died, I believe very strongly that their spirits are with me and they're guiding me and helping me, and I communicate with them regularly. But Christmas brings that all to the forefront. And it's one of the few times of the year when it's okay to be that flagrantly, unapologetically joyful.
Right? There's just something you can't say Christmas without being happy. Like just the word Christmas, right? I we don't say it enough. We need to say Christmas. But how, is there any Christmas traditions that you hold on to besides the ornaments that you do to this day, Roger? Or?
So there are a few traditions. Interestingly, I talk about them in my book, My First Last Year, because I made sure I did all of them that Christmas that I experienced my first last year. And they're simple things. We don't do this anymore. Since my mom died, we don't get together as a family the same way because now each of us kids has children. Some of us have grandchildren. So we don't get together like the family unit doesn't get together the way we used to. But there are certain traditions, like I love to assemble jigsaw puzzles, and I have some favorite Christmas themed jigsaw puzzles. So I love to listen to Christmas music one day and just sit there and assemble the Christmas jigsaw puzzle that's my favorite, and just spend that time just slowing down. Instead of the hectic, I've got to do this, I've got to make sure I've got all this taken care of. That part is fun for a while, but there's a point at which I just want to slow down and savor the holiday. And that's one of the activities that helps me do that, because to me, assembling jigsaw puzzles is very therapeutic because I just sit there, my mind wanders. I don't feel, as a writer, my mind is always in overdrive thinking, I'm coming up with another idea. I've got to come up with this for this book. And, what am I going to do about this character? And, oh, this plot detail just doesn't make sense. I've got to fix that. When I'm assembling jigsaw puzzles, it's just like, it just all goes away. It's just like, I'm not thinking about writing right now. I'm not thinking about cleaning the house. I'm not thinking about what bills need to be paid. I'm just going to sit here and engage my mind in this very tranquil activity, because my mind is engaged by assembling the puzzle, but it's not being taxed. And that's just a wonderful experience.
Well, it's really amazing how a puzzle will just bring you to focus right into the puzzle, right?
Yes,
It's
exactly.
almost like you jumped into a different wonderland. Like it's almost
Yes.
like going like with Alice Wonderland, jumped through that rabbit hole and just saying, you know what, everything else around me doesn't exist right now.
That's right.
The puzzle.
And I really appreciate the concept of having a Sabbath. I really think it's important, for me at least, to take a day each week where I don't work, because I am very proactive. I always want to be productive. I'm the kind of person who wakes up super early in the morning and I jump out of bed and I'm already getting things done. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to, get the breakfast ready and get the coffee going and turn on the computer and set it up and, decide what I'm going to do, how I'm going to work out that day. I've got my routines and I love them, but we need balance. And
Yes.
so the jigsaw puzzle idea and taking a Sabbath, I intentionally make myself not have a productive day, at least related to work and my creative jobs of writing, at least one day a week, because it just keeps things in perspective and helps me maintain the balance so that I can be calm, so that I can be present, and so that I can be really experiencing and living the moment rather than racing through one moment so I can start on the next.
Yeah. I know growing up, Sundays was a day, right? Roast beef dinners, everybody came together, family. We don't do that anymore. Now it's like, oh, I'll make a roast maybe 3 months from now. But it was every Sunday. It was always the same thing. It was a roasted beef dinner and everybody would get together. There was no talk of work at the table.
There you go.
On that day. You know what I mean? But we don't do that anymore. We don't take that time for ourselves. It's almost like we feel like we're being selfish by taking a day of rest.
Well, we need to, it's important to have the intention of knowing that's why you're doing it, because it's easy to just, there are people, in some of the classes I teach and some of the inspirational stuff I do, we talk about procrastination and how, sometimes we need rest and sometimes we're just dodging what we really are being called to do. And it's often because we're connecting the idea of fear with what's going to happen next rather than the excitement of change, which is really inevitable. I mean, things are going to change either way. So I think an intentional, non-productive day is a form of productivity. So that's how I can live with the idea.
I'm with you with that one. Like, we all could just take a day and, just say, you know what? No, today is my day and that's it. I'm not doing it. And not feel guilty about it, but it's like you said, right? there's the day of rest, but there's also procrastination,
Yeah.
right? You got to know the difference.
Yes.
Like, are you avoiding something? Are you, putting it off? Oh no, I'll do it later. That's not resting.
Yeah.
That's just not getting anything accomplished. And that's like me talking to the mirror in the morning, Roger, and I say, "Oh, that Debbie Downer for the 2 minutes." Well, that's procrastination, just kind of distracting me to go a different way. And then I finally sat in and I say, "No, this is what needs to get done." You know.
Yes. Yes. And if your viewers and listeners are wondering, well, what do I do about that? How can I do that? I am a huge advocate of doing a little something on a regular basis. Consistency over time gets the job done. When I'm a writing coach, and so I coach a lot of people through the writing process, whether they're writing their first book or they're already seasoned and they just need some support. I tell people again and again, the idea of not writing and then thinking, okay, some weekend I'm going to go off into the mountains, rent a cabin, and write that great American novel. I said, to me, that's analogous to never exercising and never running and thinking, okay, next weekend I'm just going to fly to Boston and run the Boston Marathon. It's what you do little by little that gets the job done. And I tell my clients, you will be shocked how fast you get through an entire first draft if you just set either a word limit goal or a time limit goal per week and stick to it. It's just doing a little bit on a regular basis, because to me, creative muscles are like your physical muscles. If you haven't worked out in a long time and you first start, you have to motivate yourself to get to the gym and you're sore afterwards. And it's not necessarily that fun because it's kind of painful at the start. But if you do it regularly, your body starts craving it and you want to do it. Well, your creative muscles are the same way. When you sit down to write, the first few times sometimes it might be exciting, but sometimes it might be taxing. But if you do it regularly, then your subconscious mind knows, oh, Roger writes on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So on Sunday night, I better start coming up with ideas because I know Monday morning he's going to be sitting at that computer and he needs some ideas. And your subconscious will work things out for you that you don't even have to figure out on your own. It's consistency over time that gets the job done and makes people successful and happy.
I'm 100% with that. Consistency makes the difference. Whether you take 2 steps or you take 10 steps, that consistency, just show up.
Yes.
Just show up and just do it. And we get this fear in us a lot. I know when I wrote my books, I was just like, oh well, I can do that one tomorrow, and I can do. And the second book took longer to write than the first one did. I got the first one, I was consistent, I did it. Then the second book came, and I was like, oh, I don't know, I can do maybe a little bit today, and then next week I'll do a little bit more, and I'm not. The only person I'm hurting is myself because I'm not staying consistent. I'm not staying on the trail, and I'm not staying focused, right? And I think once we lose that focus, it's hard to get back to that focus.
Yes.
Right?
And a big part of it for anybody is knowing what you value most. If you have a goal that's really important to you, then you need to consistently be working on that goal. It's not about, well, the kids need to do this, and my spouse needs this, or I've got to do this at work. It's just like, no, if this is really that important to you, you need to create the time to work on it regularly. Make that a top priority. Keep first things first. Even if you can't do it first in the day, at least schedule it at the beginning of the day and say, okay, I promise myself on my lunch hour, I'll sit and write, or whatever your goal might be. But you have to keep it at the forefront. If it's really that important to you, if it matters, you've got to put in the time regularly, and it will soon become who you are, not just what you do.
So, Roger, I want to get into your tea because I can't say the last word. I'm going to get you to say it. But today's everything and then the A word. And we're going to talk about, because I want to know what that A word stands for. What does it mean? Because I've never heard it. That's why I can't say it. So I want to learn from you.
Okay. So, my personality is positivity. And so I want to look at the positive or find the positive in everything. So when something is auspicious, it is somewhat awe-inspiring, somewhat daunting, somewhat challenging. It's just everything, but it's big and it's exciting and it's challenging, and it encompasses everything related to growth and fulfillment and achievement. And it's just a fun word.
Okay, let's try and say that word together because I want to know. I love the meaning of this word, so I want to get to know this word. So
The
how
word
do I
is
pronounce it?
auspicious.
Auspicious. I
Yes.
said it. Look at
You
that.
got it.
Auspicious. See, if you don't try, you don't know, guys. And Miss Liz learns. I'm telling you, my tea time guests teach me. Auspicious. Ah, look at that. I can say it now without even any struggle. I love it. So, why did you give me today everything auspicious? Is there a reason for today?
Because that's the only time we have. This is the moment. And this is what I learned from my first last year. We must be present. If we're thinking, well, as soon as I pay off that mortgage, I'll be happy. Or as soon as I get my last kid through college, boy, then I can start doing fun things. Or once I take that vacation that I've always dreamed about, once I get there, then I can really relax and be happy. You're not being present. The joy of every moment is this moment right now. So here I am on a podcast sharing my time for the second time in my life with you, Liz, and I am trying to absorb it all. It's just like I'm looking at your facial expressions. I'm noticing the cool collection you have behind you. I'm noticing the scrolling, words coming down at the bottom of the screen. It's just like I want to be aware and present with this, because this is the only moment that this is ever going to happen. As soon as this moment passes, it's something new, it's something different. And many people live their whole life in that, when this happens, I'll be happy, or when this happens, I'll feel successful, or when I finally get married, or when I'm in a relationship, or when I have a child, or whatever it might be. And all those are great aspirations to look forward to, but the joy is here now. It's this moment right now. Here I am. I can see you. I have my senses. I feel healthy. I am enjoying this conversation. I'm lucky enough I'm in my house right now, and the temperature is comfortable. And we've had a lot of storms in this area, and the electricity is working. This moment, I am so happy and grateful because I am aware that I am alive on this planet this very second. If we could live every moment like that, our lives would be so full all the time.
Oh my goodness. I'm really enjoying this conversation. And I always love when my guests return because it's almost like the ice is broken, right? It's almost like we're brothers and sisters now. We can just sit back and I really enjoy learning from you, Roger, on a spiritual level, because sometimes it's right in front of me and I'm not seeing it. And you just made me see it, this present moment, right? Take this moment and enjoy this moment. We're so focused on tomorrow. I'll get it done tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll, you know, but society has programmed us that way as well. That you'll be successful tomorrow. You'll be successful when you get this and that. I want to talk about success since you brought it up. What are 7 tips to real success?
So my doctoral dissertation was about success. I did that on associated with children's literature. I was looking for the qualities that are most consistently shared in children's books. So here are the 7 qualities of success. And if people go to my website, rogerleslie.com, and they click on, to become an email subscriber, you'll get these in writing. That's the free gift that goes along with that. So successful people, 1, are self-motivated. They make a decision and they take action. They move forward. 2, they're undeterred. That is, they don't give up. Once they set their mind to something, they can be distracted. They can be, they can suffer setbacks, but they don't give up. 3, they're creative. very often what we think is going to work the first time is not what works. That is not a sign from the universe that if it didn't work the first time, we're not supposed to do it or it's not supposed to be ours. It's an invitation to try something different, be creative, approach it a different way. 4, we've got to be courageous. If we are going to be successful, we've got to do things that we've never done before or we've been afraid to do in the past. 5, egalitarian. And that means being unselfish. That means being unselfish. Unselfish. In other words, whenever we have a dream, whatever we want to achieve for ourselves, embedded in that dream somewhere is what you want to do for yourself and what you want to achieve will help somebody else. Our dreams, even the ones that we hold most dearly for ourselves, are never just about ourselves. Whatever we want to do in this life, what we give to the world is going to be our gift to them. And so we need to be egalitarian and think, okay, my gift is, my dreams are also altruistic. Although I'm going to make my dreams come true and I'm going to be happy, in the process, I'm going to be doing something positive and helpful for somebody else. The 6th one is sanguine. And that's kind of an antiquated term. And it ties in with the color red. Yeah. And then finally, the last one is self-aware. And this is the toughest one, self-aware. People who are successful occasionally take time away from what they're doing to assess not only how they're succeeding, but who they are becoming in the process of pursuing this dream. Self-awareness takes the highest level of maturity because we have to be objective about ourselves and what we're doing, and we have to become aware of what's working, what's not, what we might want to revise or do differently. And we have to take a clear assessment of ourselves and look and say, you know, I like this part of who I am. This part, I could do better. Or I wish I hadn't handled that situation quite that way. Or I wish I would have thought a second before I said what I said to that person, because I didn't mean it unkindly, but I could see how that person might have taken it that way. So self-awareness is a huge part of the formula for success.
Well, and I think maturity, it's a big step, right? Like
Yeah.
looking within yourself and saying, "Ooh, maybe it's me." You know, not always the other person. It's maybe me.
And guess what? It's always us. It is never the other person. It is always us. You know, when I've talked to people, you know, and they resent somebody or they're hurt by somebody or they're frustrated with somebody. And I'm not saying there aren't people out there who hurt us, but what I came to realize is when people are talking about how angry they are with other people for how they were treated, ultimately it comes down to the realization, no, what they're really frustrated with or upset with is themselves for not stopping it or not moving away from it or not standing up for themselves when they had the chance. So we project onto others and say, well, you did this to me and you hurt me. Yes, that is true. But then what we do with that action, how we're treated, and what expectation we create the next time for how someone treats us determines the quality of our relationships and the quality of our life. So it's always about us. It's always, don't look at somebody else, look in that mirror. That's where your answer is.
Wow. Roger, you're teaching me so much tonight. Like, I'm getting self-aware within the moment here, because there's a lot of things that happen. And like you just said, we allow it to happen. We don't stop it. We don't say, you know what, I'm not comfortable with this. We just allow it to continue. And then we get frustrated with the situation. You know,
and sometimes we need to learn, you know, in the moment, we might not realize we're being taken advantage or we may not know how to respond, but afterwards we can reflect on it and say, oh, okay, next time that's not going to happen. I'm not going to allow that to happen to me. You know, we can't control it every time because sometimes people take us by surprise and we can be hurt by things that people do. And people sometimes do things that we're not aware of. And then when we do find out, it can be very hurtful. But it's what we choose to do next that shows who we are and what we're going to create in the next encounter in our lives.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for that, Roger. Like, I needed that. I needed that. Listeners out there, Miss Liz needed that. For all the listeners out there, if you have any questions or anything, or any comments, put them in the question, then I'll get them out to Roger. Uh, Tonight's conversation is really just a big eye opener, of the connection and what we're missing. We're not flying, we need to fly. Me and you, we need to talk about fly. Um, you know, I didn't know how I was going to come back after what I went through in May. And I know that I'm here because I need to be here. And I'm really appreciating this moment with you, Roger, and understanding the path that's coming, the journey that's coming ahead of me. So thank you for that, Roger. From me
You're
to you, thank you for that.
you're welcome. Very welcome.
So I want to get in, I want to wrap it up with some colors and some words, some more words here. So, Roger, you gave me the color green as your favorite color. So, why green?
To me, green is kind of in the middle of the color spectrum. It's not really, really dark. It's not really, really bright, but it's a little bit of all of it. And
Okay.
it just symbolizes growth to me. Green is about growth. It's about flourishing. It's about blossoming. And so I've always loved the color green. Interestingly, when I was very young, when I first decided green was my favorite color and I was a child, I liked a really bright spring green. Now that I'm an adult, I like emerald green. I like the depth of the tones and everything. So although that's on the darker end of the spectrum, it just feels like growth to me. It feels like flourishing. It feels like earthiness and the world supporting me. So I just think green is beautiful.
Well, it's like grass, right? The grass
Yeah.
turns brown, but then in the spring it's green and it just grows, right? And
Yeah.
there's just something about grass. Yes, you got to cut the grass, but just watching it grow, for me, it's magical. I really love grounding and that. And I like to just stand in the grass, especially after it rains and the
Yeah.
grass is wet, right? And you just
Yes.
stand there and you ground yourself and you're like, this is going to grow even though I stepped on it. And it's just like life, right? You get stepped on sometimes, but you still got to grow. You still got to move forward.
Yes.
The earth speaks to us in different ways. And, green, I never thought of green in the middle, you know? I'm trying to think of how the colors go, and I'm just like, yeah, green is in the middle. So you had me thinking here. I'm like looking at stuff. I have images all in my room here. I have like the I have the woods, and then I have an eagle, and I have skies and sand and water, and I'm looking at the grass here in that one picture, and it's in the middle of all the other pictures. So it's magical how colors can really bring a difference in our lives as well, right? And you talked about a lot of positive words, and I asked you to give me one word to describe yourself, and you gave me the word positive. So now I understand why I got the word positive, because there's so much other positive words out there that I wasn't aware of, that I've learned of tonight. So when you hear the word positive, Roger, what comes to mind for you?
Joy. When I'm feeling positive, when I'm focused on the positivity, I immerse myself in the joy that life is, because life can be joyful if we allow it to, if we choose it, but it takes work. I mean, I consciously focus on trying to be happy every single day. That is a concerted effort. It's not like, well, if something happens, then I'll be happy, because then I'm giving my power to something or someone else. It's just like, no, I have certain practices that I do every day that help ground me, that help me focus, that help me stay present, and that help me stay positive, because I'm the one in charge of my destiny. I'm the one who gets to decide how I'm going to be. Interestingly, Liz, when I was a young man, I was in undergraduate school, I worked at a grocery store. And there was a man who to me seemed old. Like he was probably in his 60s, but I was just 18 or 19. So he seemed like an older man. And he was always so happy. And I've always wanted to learn. I want to be happy. How do I learn to do that? So I just went up to him and I said, "You always seem so happy. What is your secret? How do you do it?" And his response is, "Well, I discovered that most happy old people were happy young people, and most crabby old people were crabby young people.
Hmm.
And I thought,
Interesting.
that's it. In other words, I took it to mean I need to start this process now. I don't wait until I'm old and think, okay, how do I get happy? It's just like, no, I start the work now. Be happy now, work on it consistently, consistency over time, and I will create the kind of joy that I want in my life. And I'm happy that it seems to work.
So how do you feel now that you've reached that age, Roger? Like we're getting older, right? We're not 15, 16 anymore. But when we get to that age, wow, you just made me like, as a little girl, I was always quiet one. I was always a shy one, but I was always giggling. My nickname was Giggles because when I would get tired, I would giggle. Uh, so it does start when we're little, right? And then we get older, and that's why we're still silly, goofy adults. Like I like to have fun. I like to play. Uh, so Roger, what has your little child, inner child, taught you about the older version of Roger?
I am that inner child because I think that's our soul. I think our soul is that joyful, youthful essence of us. And so I acknowledge that my body is doing different things than it used to do. So there is an aging process, and I'm not denying that, and I'm not fighting against it or anything, but I am not this physical body. I am the spirit within this physical body. And so I'm still 11 years old. Always have been. I always plan to be until until this body calls it quits. That's where I plan to stay, and I do everything I know to keep the joy of that 11-year-old in me.
Oh, I love it. So, Roger, do you have any plans of any more books coming out this year or next year, or any courses, workshops, anything that you're going to be doing?
So someone just emailed me about a new fly workshop that may be coming up soon. I haven't done them in a while. I don't offer them consistently, but when someone expresses interest, so I may be doing another fly course in the fall. And I'm always in the process of writing many books. And so the next book that will come out will be next May. I used to be a classroom teacher, and the next book in the next book that comes out in May, I'm paying tribute to some significant students that I taught over the years who actually ended up teaching me more about teaching and life than I taught them.
Oh, wow, that sounds interesting.
I'm
And
thrilled about this one.
that one's dropping next May.
Yes.
Any dates or anything, or just May?
At this point, we're thinking May 6th because that's National Teachers Day.
Oh,
So that's what we're looking at. The book is completed, but we're in the process of getting the interior designed, and we're seeking out pictures of all these students, and I'm reconnecting with students because I taught in the 1980s and 1990s. So it's been a long time since I've connected with some of these students, and it's just been such a joy because I owe my students who I became as a man, because they taught me what I was able to do to inspire other people. And I owe it all to them, and I'm writing this book in tribute to them.
wow. See, sometimes the teacher is the other person. You,
Exactly.
you just never know who's going to teach you. Tonight, you taught me a lot, Roger, and thank you again for coming back. I always love when my guests return. I've always enjoyed talking with you, Roger. There's a lot of things that have happened. 4 books in 1 year. So, see, people, a lot can happen in 1 year. So you just never know. But again, thank you, Roger, for joining me. And so, what final words do you have for everybody tonight?
Whatever it is that you're looking to do, whatever you get inspired to do anything, that may feel like the beginning of a journey. It's not. Because before you ever get inspired to do anything, life has already set in motion all the people and circumstances you need to succeed. In other words, life is conspiring with you to make all your dreams come true. So when you get inspired, take that inspiration to action and realize that you're not starting from scratch, because the momentum has already begun and you're just catching the ride. Everything that you need, everyone who will come your way is already on their way. Life has made sure of that for you, because life is supporting you even before you know it.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm going to have to listen back to this one because there's so many learning keywords and so many topics and tips and tools that you've given me tonight that I have to watch this one again. Thank you so much, Roger, for joining me. And thank you to all the listeners and supporters out there. Again, a special thanks to Best Version Media, Brian McDonald from Glenn Walters Magazine here in the local area for supporting Miss Liz and being a bronze community supporter. I really appreciate you for doing that. And again, next week we have a full house. So we have tea time on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So be sure to check that out. We have animal activists coming on. We have fantasy coming on. We have mental health coming on. We have intimacy coming on. We have a lot of good topics coming on next week. So stay tuned and check out Miss Liz. There's a different flavor and a different tea for everyone out there. And again, thank you, Roger, for joining me tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you, Liz.